Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, April 13th. We have UFC on Fox 29 coming up this weekend in Arizona, and we're going to analyze the main card from betting and odds perspective with our regular guest, Andreas Hale, who, by the way, was the one who put us all on the over in the Namajunas Joanna champion fight last weekend, and we all cashed on that one. Nice call on that one, Andreas Hale.
Yeah, it feels like I've been on a 50-50 streak lately, so I'm glad I got that one right. I was pretty confident with that pick.
Absolutely. You also talked me off of taking Joanna as well. I was thinking about taking Joanna by decision. And so we nailed that fight. Very nicely done, Andreas Hale. Let's see what we can do here for UFC on Fox 29. The main event is a very, very interesting fight, both from a fan perspective and from a handicapping perspective. Justin Gaethje against Dustin Poirier. And, of course, Gaethje is a notorious fighter. For anyone who's not familiar with who he is, he's a guy who just wants to get a knockout or be knocked out. A super, super aggressive, high-volume fighter. A little bit less strategic than you might expect from someone at this level of MMA. But that's what Gaethje does. In his last fight, he did take a loss, but he pushed his opponent to the limit, and it takes a lot of discipline to not get knocked out and to not get sucked into a brawl with a fighter like Gaethje. And Poirier, is a much more strategic fighter now than he was earlier in his career. But he used to have the reputation of being a guy who was kind of like that himself. He's a lot more disciplined now, and Gaethje is a little bit surprisingly taking some money. When I first started looking at this fight, Poirier was around a minus 120, minus 150. Now he's all the way down to minus 125 at 5 dimes, and Gaethje now down to plus 105 at 5 dimes. So some recent money, Andreas Hale coming in on Gaethje, and the market almost has this fight at even odds. A little bit more money on Gaethje will do it. What's your take on these odds? Should Gaethje be even odds with Poirier here?
Actually, I think Gaethje should be the favorite. I look at this fight. Yes, Gaethje lost. He lost to Eddie Alvarez, but that was a balls to the wall fight where two guys were just beating the crap out of each other. Dustin Poirier has always been a great fighter. He has a ton of potential, but he's never lived up to it. So my concern here is once he gets on a streak, he tends to lose. He lost to Michael Johnson. He got knocked out. You go back a distance, and he got knocked out by Conor McGregor when he was talking all that trash. His chin is a little questionable. But Gaethje's a guy who, he lost to Eddie Alvarez, but not too many people fight like Eddie Alvarez. Not too many people can deal with Gaethje's pressure, and I'm not sure if Dustin Poirier is going to be one of those guys.
I mean, when you look at a guy like Gaethje, do you not think, all right, this is a guy who obviously is going to be a fan favorite. He's going to have electric fights. But in order to really compete at the elite levels of MMA, he's going to have to be more, conservative. He's going to have to be more strategic. And he's going to have to be less like a bull in a china shop. And at least as of right now, it doesn't appear that that's something that he's willing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be my concern with Gaethje is when do those wars mount up and when does he finally break down? Because up to this point, he was undefeated until he lost to Eddie Alvarez. But a guy like that, there is some technique. There's a lot of pressure fighting that comes into play here. He displays a lot of a propensity to throw leg kicks, pretty devastating leg kicks like that. Dustin Poirier is not a guy who necessarily checks leg kicks. And he wilts under pressure a little bit. If you get on top of him, he has a hard time dealing with it. If you go back to the Alvarez fight, when Eddie Alvarez ramped up the pressure, the fight was very close, and Poirier was in danger of losing that fight. So the line should be kind of where it's at. I would thought that Gaethje would have been a little bit of a favorite, considering that Poirier got knocked out by Michael Johnson in the first round. But it is what it is. But I still like Gaethje here. I don't know when these wars amount up, but I don't think it's going to happen on this night. I think Gaethje is going to do enough here to maybe win a decision. Well, not a decision. This is a 5-round fight. Somebody's getting knocked out. This thing is not going to distance, and I like Gaethje a lot.
Yeah, and actually the total, it is a 5-round fight, but the total is just 1.5, and that's gotten bet down a little bit as well. It's now down to a plus 140 on the under, just 1.5 rounds. The over is minus 160, currently at 5 dimes. You want to make an official pick on this one, Andreas Hale?
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
1.5 rounds.
Tough one.
I'm going to go with the over here.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go with over here. Gaethje's not a guy who stops guys within a round. He usually kind of drags them in the deep water and applies that pressure until they break down. He's not a one-punch knockout artist. He's not, he kind of leg kicks you until you can't walk anymore, and then he punches you until you can't fight anymore. So over 1.5 rounds, I think it's totally feasible here. I'm going to stay away from picking either one of these fighters because, again, I'm not necessarily sure if Gaethje's been in too many wars yet, but I do think this thing will last at least 7.5 minutes. I'm going to go with the over here.
All right, yeah, I'm going to stay off this fight as well. Andreas Hale taking the over, just 1.5 rounds at just -160. And who knows, maybe public money will push this line down even further. Again, it has gotten bet down just a little bit from earlier in the week. Andreas Hale liking the over 1.5 rounds at -160. And I kind of like that one, Andreas. If you gave me a free play on the side or a total, I definitely would stay away from the sides. I guess I'd take the over 1.5. And as far as the sides are concerned, I don't know. I guess I got to be leaning Poirier. I wouldn't make that as an official pick for sure, and I'm definitely not going to bet it. It just seems to me that unless Gaethje comes here and does something unexpected, Poirier knows exactly what he's going to have to deal with, and probably he has the skills to be able to deal with it, or maybe not. Do you think that Gaethje is easy to game plan for because you know exactly what he's likely to do?
No, not really. I think that kind of pressure fighting and his leg kicks, a lot of fighters that have dealt with him before say they know what's coming, but it's very hard to stop it. Trying to figure out how to deal with that kind of pressure, because you expect him to get tired at a certain point, and he doesn't. And Eddie Alvarez, it took him till late in the third round to finish him. These two guys were beating the crap out of each other for 3 rounds, so a lot of guys can't withstand that kind of pressure. But I think Poirier, I'm not sure if he can. So, again, one day it's going to catch up to Gaethje. I'm not sure that this is going to be the night.
Okay, great analysis, Andreas Hale. Now let's talk about Alex Oliveira and Carlos Condit. Condit, kind of a sad story, right? He's lost 6 out of his last 8 fights, and his last fight, he definitely looked lethargic, looked low energy, and maybe all the wear and tear, all the rounds in the octagon are catching up with him finally. Oliveira taking this fight on short notice, of course, but Oliveira says that his weight cut was successful and that he feels strong heading into this fight. Oliveira, a big favorite here right now, -210. Condit on the other side, +175. Total is over 2.5 at -175. The under is 2.5 at +155. And I don't know, man, unless we see something substantially different from Condit in terms of his speed, his mental conditioning, his mental presence, his presence of mind. I got to think that Oliveira is going to take this one, and I might even think that he's a good bet at -210. What you taking this fight, Andreas Hale? I guess the main factor here, the X factor, is what condition will Condit come in to this fight in, both physically and mentally?
All right, so I want to go with this disclaimer. From the beginning of the year, I've been on this train that I don't think these veterans are going to get upset by this younger talent. And I've been proven wrong time and time again. These young guys come in, knock off the veteran, and it's a wrap. This is the last time I'm going to do this. I'm picking Carlos Condit here, and the reason being is I think the layoff displayed a lot of rust in the Neil Magny fight, and I don't think Oliveira is as good as advertised. He went with a great fight with Yancy Medeiros, but Yancy Medeiros, a guy who's not ranked. But prior to that, yeah, Ryan LaFleur and Tim Means and a few other guys, but nobody necessarily on the level of a Carlos Condit. I think if Carlos Condit can put it together, I think he can win this fight. I'm kind of surprised that he's this big of an underdog. I get it. He's lost 6 of his last 8 fights, but look who he's lost to. With the exception of Magny, these are all former champions or top-level competition, and Oliveira is not one of those guys. So I like Condit a lot in this fight, and on top of that, I like the under because Oliveira doesn't go the distance. He hasn't gone the distance since 2016. And this is the perfect fight for Condit to get back on track. If he does all the right things, if he prepares well with Greg Jackson, he does what he has to do, I think he can win this fight.
You don't think that Condit was a significantly different version in the Magny fight from what we saw from him in years past? And do you think that was, if so, do you think that was anomalous, or do you think it's indicative of just a career decline? A lot of saying that Condit is right now in a pretty steep, in the midst of a steep career decline, both physically and mentally. You disagree with that?
To a certain extent, because, again, that year off could have really affected his timing. He's a guy who, if he stays busy, you can tell he's sharper. A lot of guys like Donald Cerrone, when they fight and they stay busy, they're sharp. Condit didn't fight for a long time, so he wasn't sharp. Have the wars mounted up to him? It's possible. It's very possible these wars have finally wore him down. I just don't look at Oliveira as the guy to expose him. Magny is a guy who was long, rangy, and difficult to get inside on. And everything that Carlos Condit had to deal with in that fight, he's not going to have to deal with in this fight. But if the question mentally is the big question, because when you lose a fight, some guys get up and say, I lost the fight, I'll shake it off. Like Donald Cerrone, he shakes it off, he gets back in there. Other guys, it weighs a ton. Losing 6 out of 8 fights is definitely a blow to the ego. I'm not necessarily 100% sure Condit is shaking it off, but talent-wise, I just think he's a better fighter than Oliveira, even with diminishing skills. I still think he finds a way to win this fight.
Yeah, I was also thinking that this fight might be a good bet inside the distance as well. I'm just not exactly sure which fighter I expect to win. The over right now, 2.5 minus 175. The under, 2.5 plus 155. Oliveira minus 210. Condit plus 175. Andreas Hale. You have an official pick on this one?
My official pick is going to be Carlos Condit at plus 175. I like those odds a little bit much. And again, like I said, this is going to be the last time I'm doing this. When I see these old veterans up here with this younger talent, this is the last time I'm picking the veteran. If this happens again, you guys can forget about it. I'll go with the young guy every time, but I'm going to have to go with Condit here.
I don't know. There were a few times when you had winners doing that in this show, right? What was the big one that you had? It was I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember either because I feel like I've got. Well, it was Machida was the one that I got right. Was the old veteran. Yeah, he was the one that I got right. But everybody else, I was like, Arlovsky, these other guys, these younger guys, and they haven't been tested enough. They go in there with these veterans, experience, blah, blah, blah. Then they get knocked out, and people are like, you messed us up. You messed up my money this weekend. But this is going to be the last time I'm going to do it because I just think Condit's just got too much talent. He's been in a lot of wars, but with top-tier guys.
That's true. But on the other hand, when you're taking big dogs like that, you only have to hit 1 out of 3 to break even. So you don't have to win every time by any means to come out on the positive side of things. And interestingly, Condit inside the distance is plus 380. That's just an interesting line there that I wanted to quote to you. All right, Andreas Hale taking a shot with Condit at plus 175 to get a win and already also on the over 1.5 rounds in the main event. Now let's talk about another very interesting fight, right? Marvin Vittori against Israel Adesanya, a very interesting guy and a very interesting fighter here. I definitely think Adesanya is going to win this fight, and I think he's a talented fighter who's got a bright future ahead of him, both from a marketing perspective in the UFC and impressive results in the octagon. Not 100% sure though that I want to bet him at the current odds, minus 260. Vittori is a guy who can take a punch, also talented in his own right. He's at plus 220. This is a tough line from a betting perspective because I'm just not exactly sure how big of a favorite Adesanya should be here. What's your take on that, Andreas Hale?
Oh, the same thing. This is the litmus test fight because Vittori is a guy who's never been stopped. Adesanya is a guy who's never seen the judges' scorecard. So you're looking at two guys going in opposite directions in terms of who's going to get knocked out and how and what will happen here. And I like Adesanya a lot. The problem is, yes, he's relatively untested. And with a guy with a chin like Vittori, he could stand up. Things could happen here. And at a plus 260, minus 260, I got to kind of stay away from this fight. I think I'm just going to watch it because I like Adesanya a lot. The guy is an excellent striker. He's like a whirlwind of punches and kicks. I just don't know if he can finish him. And if he doesn't finish him, then I'm concerned. What happens, to his psyche in those later rounds? Does Adesanya kind of wilt under the pressure and give away a round or two and then lose a split decision on the judges' scorecard? You never really know. But at this current line, I'm going to stay away from it.
Yeah. What about the over 1.5 rounds minus 160? Does feel like the fight is, if not likely to go the distance, at least likely to go over. Because again, as you said, Adesanya, awesome, obviously, but this is going to be the toughest fight of his career for sure. He's probably going to have at least a little bit of respect for Vittori. Vittori for sure, arrogant guy, but he'll have a little bit of respect at least for Adesanya. And what about the over here?
I like the under. It's a lean for me on the over because I think this fight should definitely go at least 7.5 minutes. Again, Vittori's never been stopped. Adesanya should get a stoppage here, I would think, judging by looking at his last few fights, even before he came into the UFC. The guy just overwhelms his opponents. But you never really know. So that being said, I think the safer bet here is to go with the over. The under is probably not likely because you may have two guys, like you said, that respect each other. So it's a lean. It's not going to be an official pick, but I like the over in this fight.
Yeah. All right. I'll make it an official pick. What the hell? Over 1.5 rounds, minus 160. Both these guys are supremely talented, so it's kind of the opposite of when you have two grizzled veterans going up against each other. And I like overs in those kinds of fights as well. Feel like they probably will have a little bit of a healthy amount of respect for each of those for each other, and unless there's some kind of fluky finish early, I think it's going to go. We might see a third round stoppage, or it might go to the card. So I'm going to take the over 1.5 at minus 160 as an official pick for myself. And then the last fight is Courtney Casey against Michelle Waterson. Very competitive odds here. Casey is minus 130. Waterson is actually the underdog at plus 110, and Waterson has lost her last two fights, but of course those were against Tisha Torres and Rose, and so we give her a pass on both those losses. I think this one also, to my eye, has a fight going the distance written all over it, but the over 2.5 rounds right now is minus 270. Anything can happen in MMA, so I'm not sure I want to lay those kinds of odds, but definitely feels like the fight has distance going to the cards written all over it. And as far as skills are concerned, I guess I'm a little bit surprised that Casey is a favorite here. Would you make Casey a favorite here over Waterson?
No, I wouldn't actually. I kind of take a look because I was like, wow, Michelle Waterson's the underdog. And I looked in Courtney Casey's lost to Felice Herring, Claudia Galdelia. And that's really it in the UFC. I mean, she lost a couple of early fights to Suhu Ham and I think Joanna Calderwood, I believe. But aside from that, she's been pretty tough. But that being said, Michelle Waterson, I just think has got a little bit more skills all the way around here. She's a better striker. She has a very impressive ground game. And so I'm surprised. I guess they're looking at momentum here and saying that Waterson's lost. But like you said, I mean, look who she lost to. The current champion, Rose Namajunas, who's just beating up everybody. And Tisha Torres, who's probably one of the livest dogs in that particular division. She's tough as hell. So I'm surprised, and that makes me have to go with Michelle Waterson as an official pick because being the underdog, I almost feel like it's a gift. Unless Courtney Casey shows me something remarkable, I can't necessarily see her winning this fight.
Yeah, right now Waterson is plus 110. Casey is going to have a significant reach advantage. Maybe that's a big deal. And interestingly, though, I think these prop odds might be a little bit off because this fight is expected to go the distance. The fight going the distance is minus 250, but Waterson, the market is expecting if Waterson gets a win, it's actually going to be a finish because Waterson to win plus 110. Waterson by a decision is plus 235. Do you think that if Waterson wins, it is going to come inside the distance?
Very likely, and if that's the prop bet that I'm seeing there, I'm gonna have to take that because I don't necessarily see Michelle Waterson finishing Casey off. I don't think Casey's been finished before. I think Pearl Gonzalez in way early in her career, in like her second fight. Taking a look here, but aside from that, she hasn't been finished. So yeah, give me Michelle Waterson at that prop bet. What do you say, plus 230?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that would be the case, but Waterson wins by 3-round decision right now. I'm seeing it at 5 dimes plus 235, unless that is some sort of maybe a false line here that 5 dimes is hanging. But those are the odds they're hanging right now, and those are the odds we will quote. I'll make that one an official pick right now at 5 dimes. Waterson by decision plus 235. I'll make that one an official pick. And Andreas Hale, you want to make a pick as well?
Yeah, I'm going to take that official pick too, and everybody that's watching this go run and make that as well before it disappears because I think that's a gift. Yeah,
I'm not sure. There's a slight chance that could be a typo line here, but I don't know. I don't think that is the case. Maybe it's plus 135. That's possible actually, Andreas Hale. That it might just be plus 135 instead of plus 235, and they typed it wrong.
It's possible, but either way, give it to me. even I think she wins this fight, and it's probably by decision. So whatever line is plus something.
I don't know. Then again, Casey winning by 3-round decision is plus 132. So I don't think that Waterson by decision could be plus 135 when Casey is the clear favorite right now. So we'll quote that line: plus 235. Waterson by decision. That's an official pick from both Andreas Hale and I. Great breakdown, Andreas Hale. Once again, Andreas Hale is taking the over 1.5 rounds minus 160 in Gaethje Poirier. Andreas Hale is going to take one more shot with a grizzled veteran underdog, maybe in a career decline. Carlos Condit at plus 175. I'm going to take the over 1.5 rounds in Vittori and Adesanya, and Andreas Hale and I are both taking Waterson by decision at plus 235. Andreas Hale, thanks so much. Talk to you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.